Hello and welcome to the trade setup. In this video we are looking at Intel. It is time for another update and we see a very interesting structure take place on this chart. We have just extended to new all-time highs and I'm sure a lot of people are questioning how reliable is this uptrend, how much higher can we still expect to even extend within this structure, and what would be the signal that a more substantial top would instead be in place. And of course we will be answering all of that today. But before we do so, let's move through the larger time frame. Let's provide the context for this chart because it is actually quite important. And we start basically with the target. What can we be looking for within this as a larger wave to the upside? Well, I would still primarily track this as a larger wave 3. I wouldn't even change the fact that I would still expect this to possibly be a wave 1 of a larger wave 3. But the ideal target for the overall wave 3 is still the 138.2% extension of the wave 1. That sits at around $200, right? Just below that. And of course, it can even far exceed such a target, especially within certain counts we have previously presented on the Intel chart. And let me know in the comments if you want to see them again, maybe write something like extension. Now, as I was saying, there is still a good chance this would be the wave 1 to the upside itself. I would still like to keep this in mind. I would still like to even focus on this because this is where even the greatest opportunity of this chart would reside if it is to work out. Because we have already previously been preferring to have started a larger wave 2 correction where the first level of support was around $35. Since we have gotten this extension, this support zone needs to be upgraded. We will of course update the levels, but we also have to make a different consideration. Now that this has extended to new highs even, we have to open the possibility of this being an A, B, C structure. In such a scenario, the ideal target is instead the 100% extension of the wave A. That sits around $100. Do we need to get there? Actually, no. We would expect only to build a 5-wave pattern to the upside. Do we have such a 5-wave pattern? Let me know what you think. And I actually believe we do. I would consider it possible to track this movement to the upside in 2 counts that would allow a 5-wave pattern to possibly be taking place, to possibly be quite close to completion even. Now, I wouldn't focus on such a count. I would still be tracking the same structure we previously have been. I would still be looking for this to be a wave 1 within a leading diagonal. We had the 3-wave correction very nicely into the last level of support, and we have extended higher within what I consider to be a wave 1 to the upside. And if we do not extend directly higher and form a larger wave 3 in a much more direct fashion, I will still be looking for this to be building a wave 2 correction. And I still find this to be the ideal outcome. Now, let's move into the smaller time frame. And based on the latest extension, I actually have to consider another interpretation. As I was mentioning, there are 2 counts available now, both of which allow a 5-wave pattern to be in place. So, what are they? Well, I would need to come back to this initial wave 1 to the upside. We have been primarily tracking this initial larger wave 1 as a leading diagonal. Why? Well, it's this wave 1 to the upside that we have built initially. In this structure, it is extremely difficult to identify a reliable 5-wave pattern. Why? Well, within this initial push, there are a lot of difficulties in identifying more than a wave A. For this to be more than a leading diagonal, I would need to be able to track this wave 1 as a 5-wave pattern. What would I need to be able to do that? Well, I would need to consider this to have been the wave 1 up, this the wave 2 down, this the wave 3, and so on, the wave 4 and the wave 5. This would have to be a leading diagonal itself. And technically it is valid. We have actually not broken any rules within this count. We have exceeded within this as an internal wave 3 the 100% extension of the wave 1. We have also exceeded the 100% extension of the wave 5, but the rule is that the wave 3 cannot be the shortest wave. Well, this is satisfied, only that within this structure, it's really not an ideal pattern, let's be clear. Not only that, but if I want to track this as an A, B, C movement to the upside, well, the wave C would be sufficiently extended, and actually quite extended for it to have been a wave 5 itself. It reached the 78.6% extension of the wave A. That's not quite the ideal target, but it is a common target for the wave C. And most times, I would typically be tracking this as a wave C itself. I wouldn't have too much faith in considering this to have been a leading diagonal, but I would have to grant this possibility given the latest extension within this as a wave 5. If I want to track this to have been the wave 3 top and to have this as a wave 4, the corrections would be probably a better match for this as a wave 4 with this as a wave 2 than in the idea of a leading diagonal, which isn't applicable within this count, at least not currently, because within this as a wave 5, I am currently tracking a 5-wave pattern, which is not valid if I were to track still the idea of a leading diagonal. Well, okay, this is the one interpretation where we are tracking an impulse. This wave 5 would be building a 5-wave pattern itself, likely an impulse actually, and once we have a top within this wave to the upside, the wave 1 itself could have a top as well. But I could also track this to have been the wave 3 top here, this would have been the wave 4 bottom, and then this would be an A, B, C pattern within the wave 5. Within this count, I can track each of these subwaves in fact to have been only a 3-wave pattern, quite clearly in fact, and this would allow me to consider a leading diagonal to still be taking charge. This would be instead a wave C to the upside. And what is the difference? Well, that's the beautiful part. We do not have to consider a difference because within the wave C, as within the wave 5 itself, I would be tracking a 5-wave pattern. Within both counts, I am tracking the same movement in this structure to the upside internally, which validates some confluence between scenarios for me. Now, since this is the case, I really do not care about the larger structure within this as a larger wave 1 at the moment. And of course, there is the possibility of direct extensions where I would likely need to consider probably a series of 1-2 setups within this structure, which would even allow this to be in fact a wave 3 and get even further extensions until we complete the larger wave 3. This would take us in a more direct fashion to the $200 level target. That is a perfectly valid scenario, but it also implies looking for positions within the wave 4 and the wave 5. It wouldn't provide particularly promising risk-reward ratios or a particularly great trade setup. So let's provide now the support zone for the upgraded wave 2, because as I was saying, we have formed an extension, we have new levels that we would be watching out for, and this currently sits at the levels between $46.7 down to $24.7. Instead of expecting within this as a larger wave 2 to reach $35, we really only need to get to $46 before starting the reversal to the upside. Not only that, if this is indeed a larger wave 3 taking place, it isn't uncommon to have more shallow retracements. In some occasions, we wouldn't even reach the area of support itself. Now, granted this would be the initial wave 1 to the upside, I would typically expect to reach the support zone, but more often than not, we would likely see a more shallow retracement, right? We wouldn't be looking for the deepest correction within this as a wave 2, given the context. That is why the context of this chart is quite important. Now, this support zone is available as long as we do not extend even higher within this as a wave 1, and internally within this structure, let's track the actual movement, the actual structure within this area. We have a couple of considerations to make. Firstly, this structure to the upside is actually potentially complete if we are willing to track an ending diagonal. But given the time frame this structure is within and how shallow these retracements have so far been, we do really have to consider the possibility of a not so apparent impulse. So I would still be looking for this to potentially be something like a 1, 2, a wave 3 up, a wave 4 down, and this to be the wave 5 to the upside within the idea of an impulse instead. Now, within this count, we do not expect to have a top in place just yet. We would like to see one more high, as within the wave 5 we expect to build a 5-wave pattern instead. So we would have an internal count with this being a wave 1 up, a wave 2 down, and this would have been our wave 3 up, wave 4 down, and we would expect one more high within this as a wave 5 before a more substantial top would be taking place. The area of support we would need to track for such a wave 4 correction would be down to the 50% retracement, the $75 level, and as long as we do not get a sustained break below that, we can still prefer even extensions to new all-time highs. Now, what does happen once we complete this structure? Well, we would have a structure potentially complete within the idea of an impulse. I could technically be tracking extensions even further within this being instead an ending diagonal within this as a wave C or a wave 5, where the wave 3 would actually still be going. This would be a larger A, B, C pattern. That is one consideration to make, but we would need to be extremely prepared for a top to be in place, right? We will be tracking the possibility of this instead being a wave 3 to the upside, of course. But there is no given that it will succeed in forming the entire wave 3 in a direct fashion. Sure, the momentum has been picking up and I will favor continuation to higher prices as long as we hold the levels of support, but as it stands right now, the count itself is technically full. And I would still allow this structure to extend to even higher prices against the larger structure, the larger idea of this being a wave 3 top and having a larger wave 4 correction down into the 50% retracement at $58.7. If we break even below this, well, that would be actually a quite strong signal that a more substantial top would be in place, that this structure would not succeed in forming the larger wave 3 in a direct fashion. And I would even look for a parallel channel here within the wave 2 and the wave 4 bounds matched with the supposed wave 3 top within the idea of an impulse, where this would have been something like this, and we would notice a break of such a channel. And of course, this can be a momentum signal that this instead is not a wave 5, but I would be watching extremely closely as we start the next trading week to see if we do not form just a regular throw over where this just signal exhaustion, we break the trend line, we head back down into the channel and then get ultimately the larger break extending into the larger wave 2 correction. And this can happen even while getting this last extension within this as a wave 5. Now, there are many options possible on this chart. We could be looking for various different counts that all would be valid technically, but for me it's clear that the levels of support are the most important. I need to hold $75 for direct extensions within one more high in this structure. Sure, if it extends within a lot more strength, I could even see the possibility of this turning into a wave 3 itself. Investor sentiment is extremely bullish on Intel currently, but if we do not manage to hold even the 50% retracement, I would find that an extremely unlikely outcome, to be honest. Then we could be watching for this idea of a larger wave 3 extending in a more direct fashion in this green interpretation, where I would actually expect to hold at least $58.7, and if even that fails to hold, well, I would be considering a wave 1 top to likely be in place. I would be strongly preferring the larger wave 2 correction to be taking charge and to be taking us to at least $46.7, at least given the current top within this as a larger wave 1. And for now, these are the levels, this is the trade setup. I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and if you enjoy our content and want to support us directly, check out our channel membership. And as a thank you for any of these actions, I would like to invite you to sign up to our channel newsletter, where you get access to our monthly top picks where we identify for you high quality structures. Other than that, let me know what else you would like me to cover, and I'll do my best to do that in the days and weeks ahead. And until then, I wish you a nice day, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.